So I want to welcome everyone. Hi there. My name is Karen Gilligan. I'm going to be going over some really important information over the next 30 minutes. This is just really good information that I have learned over the last, I would say, year and a half of doing research. I have a science background and I kind of like to pull things apart. And a friend of mine, Susan, introduced me to a weight loss program, and I wanted to know the nitty-gritty of why it works. Not just the fact that it worked, because it obviously worked, but I want to know the science behind why it worked. And so I have this information I'm super excited to share with you. My friend Lisa has shared an amazing experience just with her journey in using some of these principles I'm going to share with you. So I thought I'd like to kick this off by introducing you to Lisa and letting you guys hear her story firsthand. So here we go, and I'll pass it over to Lisa.
I'm going live, and there's probably a very good chance nobody will join me because I have to be moderated, so that's okay. I'm going to share a very short live with you because I find it a lot easier to encourage what I consider to be more face-to-face than when I type things out. Besides that, I hate typing. I hate it. I've been seeing a lot of fear from people with the whole idea of losing weight in general. And I want to tell you that I know exactly how that feels and how frightening that can be, mostly because we have failed so much trying to do other things. And I want to encourage you to not look at this as an opportunity to be thinner. Look at this as an opportunity to be well. And I know I've said this before, and I know I've shared my story before, but I'm going to share it again for some of you that are new. Back in on October 31st of 2017, I posted a live video on my Facebook timeline. And so on October 31st, I spilled my guts on my Facebook timeline about how terrified I was about trying to lose weight again. And to be quite honest with you, I was more than depressed. I had tried several other things. I had tried to lose weight in all kinds of ways. I had done Atkins, and I had done cabbage diets, and I had done soup diets, and I had done shake diets, and and all that was happening to me was I was getting steadily bigger and certainly getting more sick physically as well as emotionally. And so I was terrified about trying something else. Absolutely terrified. And Susan said, just try one more thing. Just try one more thing. I have discovered that I have been overly focused on the wrong thing for all of that time. I decided to stop thinking about getting thin and just think about getting well. So I want to encourage those of you that have been on the plan even now for a week or two, a couple of weeks. After a year, I have kept 40 pounds off, have dropped 2 sizes, and I don't look at the scale. I know how I feel. I know how I feel in contrast the way that I did when I started. I know that my knees no longer prevent me from going up and down the stairs in pain. I know that my mood is so much better, and my mind and my thought processes are so much clearer since I gained control of my sugar intake, meaning I no longer am addicted to sugar. Now, with that being said, if I start pumping it into my system, I will revert back to those old ways, and I know that. So I want to encourage you to stop looking at the scale. Stop thinking about how thin you'll get, especially if you're big like me and you need to lose 100 pounds. Because I got to tell you, I'll never be skinny. I mean, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to look like I did when I was in high school. I'll never, be able to probably do the splits again. And I'm probably not going to be able to do the hustle the way that I used to back in the 80s. But I do know this. living well does not mean being small. I have a really powerful reason to try and take care of myself. I'm not even concerned about what will happen if I continue to live well or get well. I'm more concerned with what will happen if I stop trying. I have a granddaughter who needs me to live longer. And I can't imagine what I would feel like today if I hadn't started and just done one more thing. Like Susan said, just do one more thing. And the difference that that has made for me, for my blood pressure, for my, like I said, my mood, my state of mind, my ability to handle stress is completely different. Have I lost weight? Yep. But even if I hadn't, the way that I feel without ever stepping on the scale tells me that it's worth it to be on the journey. I printed out a picture of me from what I believe to be November 1st. I talked to Susan that day. She and I did a live, and I think this is a picture from that event, and I'm going to show it to you guys. And to you, I know maybe I don't look a whole lot different, but I see the despair and the depression and the pain on this face, and I'm not going back there. And you don't have to go back there either. But you do have to decide that it's more important to live well. Doesn't matter if you don't get small. What matters is that living a better lifestyle with your food choices, living in a family like we have, we can support and encourage and trust and be a family. All of that is worth it and worth far more than just the numbers that you see on the scale. So the non-scale victories are the ones that are permanent. The non-scale victory of having no more pain and not having to be depressed and having the ability to have your thought processes change and not being addicted and having sugar control you and motivate you out of your chair to the pantry for no reason at all except to stuff your face. Having control of that is worth it. I'm not going to cry. Look at her. I don't even know who she is anymore. I just know that I'm not going to feel like this again. If I never lose another pound, I'm not going to feel like this again. So, make a decision to try one more thing and don't look back.
Oh, well, I cannot watch that without tearing up, and I've seen that like many times. Tell us how many times, I can't count. I do get emotional about this because this is information that we should all know. And there's a documentary I want you guys to write down. I want you to promise me you'll watch if you haven't already. And it's called The Magic Pill. And The Magic Pill's on Netflix. It's a documentary that talks about sugar and where sugar's hidden in our diets and how it affects us. Affects everything from inflammation to everything, toxicity in the body to weight loss, weight gain, our moods, our brain. You know, sometimes we call our stomach the second brain. Have you heard that? And there's so many things that go on internally that affect our mind. Depression is obviously a big one, but brain fog and stress and all sorts of things. So what I will ask you guys is grab a pen and paper, take some notes because you're going to want to take notes, and do me a favor, please pay it forward. Anything that you learned today, please share it. Please share this. So just so you know who I am, my name is Karen Gilligan. I've been in the health and wellness industry for 25 years. I also have a background in science with a bachelor's degree in psychology and biology, but I'm just a curious person and I like to know why and how things work. So that's what's led me to this. And I've also had my own weight loss journey, like anybody else, yo-yo dieting back and forth, and I finally discovered something that works for me. This is not something that I'm just saying, oh, well, I read it in a book, so it must work. This is something that we have seen story after story after story. I know that Lisa's story I just shared with you is an emotional one, but it's not an atypical one. In fact, it's one of our Facebook groups has profiles all these stories, and there's so many testimonials and just emotion, raw emotion. And you realize that we're broken, you know, and we really need somebody to come along and give us information. And I'm happy to, at least today, be that person to give you some really good information that you can do something with. So I want to talk for a few minutes about why diets don't work. I want to talk about how our bodies react to what, how, and when we eat. This is what we're going to be discussing today. How food addiction sabotage our efforts, how to flip the switch on your metabolism, how to turn your body from fat storage mode to fat burning mode. I know, it's like you had me at hello, right? How to change habits without feeling deprived, and how to regain control of your wellness. So I'm going to try to keep this to about 30 minutes, and we're going to cover all of these topics today. So just ask yourself, does this sound familiar to you? Have you ever done this yo-yo dieting thing where you diet, gain it back, diet, gain it back? Does this picture look familiar to you? Well, if you're in my age group or even in your 30s, I'm 52, but anybody who's been, you know, through life as an adult female knows that this is a continual cycle. I think my first diet was probably when I was 14 in high school. And I mean, I've off and on dieted to lose weight and fit into that special dress, and then of course I'd gain it back. If you're like me, you have fat clothes and you have skinny clothes in your closet. You often choose outfits based on how they make you look or what they can hide, right? You get that baggy sweater because you know it can hide stuff. If you're embarrassed by your size, if you feel low energy, you know, some of us have sore joints and are sometimes depressed just because of that extra weight that we're carrying. If you don't like to go out, if you dread seeing old friends who last saw you when you were smaller, you know, guys, this is us, right? This is just every woman feels this way. You're definitely not alone. So I wanted to explain exactly why is it that diets don't work. Well, by definition, a diet means it's a you know, one point in time. It's not a lifestyle, it's a diet, right? So that right there tells you that it's temporary, but you're training your body to conserve energy because our bodies are designed for survival from caveman days. So if you're not feeding your body's going to go into storage mode. It's going to say, well, gee, I'm not sure where my next meal is going to come from, so I'm going to save everything she does give me, and I'm going to save it as fat because you never know, there might be famine in my future and this chick is surviving. That's what our bodies do. And so when you diet, you will lose weight. When you cut calories, you'll lose weight, but your metabolism is affected. Your metabolism ends up like sinking down below baseline, and then it just never comes back up again. So you might feel like, well, wait a minute, how is this fair? Because I'm eating less than my skinny friend, and yes, I'm still gaining weight. So how is that fair? Well, it's not fair. It's just reality. And the reality is that our metabolisms have suffered. So your body becomes really efficient at storing fat. You honestly feel like a perpetual martyr, right? Like you're always feeling guilty about everything. And that is not fun. Why are we carrying around all this guilt? Now I'm dumbing this down a little bit because I'm just pulling it from the book and it's just easy to explain in layman's terms this way. But there's three basic food types: fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And I know that historically over so many years, there's been some misinformation about the pros and cons of each food type and how much or what percentage that you should have. For example, in the 1990s, the FDA food pyramid used to look like this. And look at the high percentage of grains and carbohydrates that they were recommending. And there's actually a reason behind that, and it's almost like a conspiracy theory around fat in the sugar industry. But I'm just going to read this for you. I found this just by Googling it. It says the heart conspiracy, how sugar industry paid to make fat the villain. And I'm just going to take myself off screen share for a minute so that you can see me bigger. If you guys can see that, it's on my iPad. You might want to take a screenshot of that. You might want to read that yourself after. But I will go back to share my screen here. And I'll just read this to you. It says, how fat-free became a hero. Back in the 1980s, nutrition and exercise experts started preaching the value of eating fat-free to prevent cardiovascular disease and weight gain. Anybody else remember Susan Powter? The dieting gospel was clear. If you wanted to live longer and look good in your aerobics leotard, you need to cut out fat from your diet. Soon, grocery store aisles were lined with products like Snapwells and Snapple. Fat-free cottage cheese and skim milk were suddenly synonymous with healthy food. And nothing spelled health-conscious like an egg white omelet or a grapefruit for breakfast. The real truth about fat. Here's where the conspiracy theory comes in. Little did we know, the research everyone was spouting up to back then about fat-free trend was actually paid for by the sugar industry. In reality, studies performed in the late 70s and early 80s actually linked sugar with an increase to heart disease and other serious illnesses, not fat. Sweetener manufacturers realized news like that could cost them major profits, so they hatched a despicable plan. They paid noted scientists to manufacture studies that called out fat as the culprit for the same health conditions. They knew all too well that fat equals flavor. Food without fat was going to need something to fill the flavor void, and they happily offered up sugar as the harmless alternative. Grocery aisles full of low-fat, no-fat products with extra sweeteners were soon fueling an obesity epidemic that still goes on today. So this is what's, in the 90s, that's why you're seeing this. Then you fast forward and you go, what's that, 28 years later, 2018, this is now what the food plate's been replaced, the food pyramid's been replaced by the food plate, and you can see that grains occupy only 25%, vegetables and fruits certainly have over 50% of the plate. And this is what they recommend. And they also recommend, of course, staying away from empty calories. And I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't already know, but what are empty calories? They're calories that don't nutritionally benefit your body. And empty calories usually taste good. So we like them, we consume them. Soda pop's one of the worst things that you can drink. Chips, crackers, cookies, squares, muffins, and cakes. A lot of times people think that muffins are healthy. Our local Tim Hortons donut shop here, if you look at the label, actually donuts are better for you than muffins. I know, I'm going to say that again, at least at my local Tim Hortons, according to the nutritional labels, donuts are better for you than muffins. Alcohol, obviously, sauces and condiments. But I wanted to talk about carbohydrates first. Now, carbohydrates, there's simple carbohydrates and there's complex carbohydrates, okay? And you may not have heard this term before, but there's something called the glycemic index, which classifies carbohydrates based on how quickly they increase your blood sugar and to what level they increase your blood sugar. So you can see some food products that are high in the glycemic index would be white bread, Coke, ice cream, cornflakes. What would be low in the glycemic index is lentils, beans, hummus, and peanuts, which means when we eat the foods that are high in the glycemic index, it's a bit of a trick because your blood sugar spikes up, but then it crashes right down. And there's something called metabolic syndrome. You might have heard this term. 40% of people over the age of 60 are afflicted with metabolic syndrome, and there's really no obvious symptom except extra belly fat. That would be the biggest symptom. But it says a loss of just 3 to 5% of your current body weight can lower your risk for metabolic syndrome significantly. And this is where insulin, if your body is not producing sufficient insulin to work with the glucose to help it pass through to the cells, and that glucose, which is the byproduct of carbohydrates, right? That glucose then has to go somewhere and it gets stored as fat. Even though you might eat the same amount of food as your skinny friend doesn't have metabolic syndrome, so your skinny friend is not storing that excess glucose, but you are, okay? So if you can even drop your weight by 3 to 5%, they say, just 3 to 5, not 35, 3 to 5%, you can reverse the impact of metabolic syndrome, okay? So sugar is hidden everywhere. Just take a look at some foods that we thought were good for us, like rice. You know, this is the equivalency of a teaspoon of sugar, which is 4 grams of sugar. There's what, 10, I think, in a serving of rice. 9 in potatoes, 8 in French fries. Drop down to peas, that's better. Banana, surprisingly, a large amount. Apple, only 2. Broccoli, none. Eggs, none. So this is hidden, but it's also hidden in everyday foods that have become our favorites that we buy at the grocery store, like yogurt. In fact, fat-free yogurt is one of the worst things that you can buy. There's the equivalent of 5 teaspoons of sugar in the fat-free yogurt. You might think, oh, I'm doing the right thing. Look at me go. I'm buying fat-free. Well, there's nothing wrong with fat. Don't be afraid of fat. Be far more afraid of sugar than you ever would be of fat. And forget about counting calories, you guys. This is the other reason why diets don't work. Because when you restrict your body of calories, your body then starts to shut down and says, hey, I'm not sure when she's going to feed me again. I better start taking everything she does give me and convert it to fat. So I recommend a program where you're not weighing or measuring food and you're not counting calories, where you eat when you're hungry and you stop eating when you're full. And when you have long gaps between eating, again, that's when it's like think of your body like a wood stove. So if you're not feeding it, or you're not feeding logs to the wood stove in this analogy, the fire's going to go out. You do not want to let your fire go out. So even if you don't feel hungry, have a little snack. Even if it's a handful of almonds or something, keep yourself at a base level for your metabolism. And you know, when I was growing up in the 80s, 70s and 80s, my mom always told me that fat was fat, right? Like I always thought that fat was fat. I'll blame my mom. That pat of butter meant that that was the same as fat on my body, and I should probably not put as much on my toast. And that's probably from this whole conspiracy theory I just read you. But I'm here to tell you, I'm releasing you from that because it's not true. FAT might be spelled the same as the FAT on your body, but it is not the same thing. Your body does not convert fat to fat as efficiently as it turns carbohydrates to fat. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Your body does not convert fat to fat as efficiently as it turns carbohydrates to fat. So fat is not the enemy. Now let's talk for a minute about how our bodies convert food to fat. Carbohydrates are super efficient, very quickly converted. Fat takes longer to convert, and proteins take longer to convert. Our bodies actually have to burn calories, you can believe this, to convert protein to fat. Bonus, right? Plus, fats and proteins satisfy us and makes us feel full. All the more reason to include them in our diet. So forget counting calories, measuring foods, weighing foods, counting macros. This is not, you know, putting your body into ketosis. That's not healthy either. That's not what we're doing. So this is about making better choices, because once you know better, then you can do better. And if you don't know, then you can't do, right? So low carb, moderate fat, moderate protein, no ketosis. So I want to talk about the importance of what, when, what, and how much. You might want to take a screenshot of this page because it's important information. Low carb, you want to go low carb, especially dramatic reduction for the first 2 weeks, because you want to kick your body into fat burning mode. And right now you may not be. You're in a period of, I don't know, stasis or, you know, status quo, if you will, where you've been doing things a certain way and your body's certainly behaving a certain way. And you have to kind of wake it up. So the first couple of weeks, it's going to feel weird because you're taking some major foods out of your diet. And I've got a list of some of the things that you're going to take out of your diet. And even some things that might surprise you, like fruits. You might think, well, what's wrong with fruit? Fruit's healthy. Well, your body doesn't differentiate. If it sees carbohydrates, whether it's coming from this or it's coming from that, your body is still seeing the carbohydrates. So that's why we're taking them out of your diet for 2 weeks. You need to eat a protein source within 60 minutes of waking up. A lot of people wake up and they're not in the mood to eat. They don't want to eat. They're not hungry. They go out and they don't eat for hours later. It's the worst thing you can do. You're telling your body whether you're going to feed it or not that day, and you're giving your body like a heads up warning. Okay, guys, turn that metabolism on. It's like the kindling for your stove that you're lighting up first thing in the morning. Eat every 2 to 3 hours. Drink lots of water. 50% of your body weight in ounces of water is what we recommend. So if you're 160 pounds, that's 80 ounces of water. That's 10 cups of water. That's a heck of a lot of water. And if you're like me, you don't love the taste of water, then find yourself a nice, like a sugar-free flavoring drink or something like that. Flavoring mix, you can find those anywhere. And put that in your water. Eat based on hunger. Eat until you're satisfied. Have safe snacks on hand. And be prepared for that. Like if you're traveling and you know you're on the go, get some cheese strings or get some nuts or get something portable that you can take with you. And have some food hacks. And I've got some fun food hacks I'm going to share with you. So we're going to flip the switch for the first couple of weeks, and these are the foods that you're not going to have. So you might want to take a screenshot of this because I'm going to go by this page pretty quick. Again, and these are the ones that you're allowed to have. You can have as much as you want of these, and as much as you want of these. Look at all the yummy foods on this list. Even cream in your coffee and sour cream is fine too. And these are the ones that you're going to limit. The first 2 weeks, you're not going to have these at all, but then you can slowly bring them back into your diet. These foods are not bad for you. These are good foods, but some of them are higher in carbohydrates than you want to have for the first couple of weeks to flip the switch. Now, some simple food hacks that I've personally used and love. Spaghetti squash instead of pasta rocks my world. It tastes way better than spaghetti like pasta. Pasta is flavorless. It only takes the flavor of what you put on it. At least spaghetti squash has flavor. Eggplant lasagna. I made moussaka one time with eggplants, and I had this aha moment, which is, this is just like lasagna. Why couldn't I just make lasagna with this? And of course you can, and I did, and the rest is history. You can buy a spiralizer. I bought one for 12 bucks at my local store, and you can spiralize zucchini and anything else that can fit in there, you can spiralize. Makes it kind of fun and pretty, and you can cook it and use it as noodles. Riced cauliflower. My local grocery store has riced cauliflower. Tastes just like rice. We had Swedish meatballs the other night on the riced cauliflower. You'd never know the difference. Almond flour, you can bake and cook with that. Cauliflower pizza crust. There's a recipe we have on our Facebook group for that. Peanut butter powder is my new best friend. peanut butter powder is awesome, and you're allowed to have that as much as you want within reason. You don't want to OD on it, but I could. When I put that with my chocolate protein powder drink, oh my gosh, it tastes like Reese's peanut butter cup. Love it. And the skyr yogurt, I've discovered skyr is like an Icelandic yogurt, really low carb, like 2 grams of carbs in the skyr yogurt. And I like to put my chocolate protein powder in there, and it tastes like a chocolate cheesecake. It really does. It tastes really decadent. So I wanted to give you guys a little example of the day in the life. What would this look like with this kind of a program? And again, I want you to think about this. This is not a diet. This is choosing different foods, but your actual consumption, a lot of people tell me that their consumption goes up. They go, how am I going to lose weight when I'm actually eating more than I was when I was dieting? And the answer is because it's not about calories. It's about your engine. It's about the science behind how your body uses what you give it. So for breakfast, you're having a couple eggs, cheese, turkey bacon, coffee with cream. I'm a big coffee drinker, and I love cream in my coffee. I love feta cheese. I even often put avocado, and I'll put avocado, feta cheese in my eggs and mix it all up. It's delicious. Sometimes throw a few mushrooms in there. And if you're not a breakfast eater, just grab a protein drink. You know, a protein drink, and put it with almond milk, and out the door you go, or a protein bar. At 9:30, remember you want to eat every couple of hours. So 9:30, you're having a snack. Cheese strings, almonds are great. Smoothie, make yourself a smoothie. At 11:30, you're having another snack. In my case, I'd probably have more coffee. You can have a low glycemic snack bar or a protein bar, or that skyr yogurt with the protein powder I talked about. 1 o'clock is lunchtime. This is actually what I had for lunch 2 days ago, so I thought I'd share this. Chicken Caesar salad with bok choy and mushroom soup. Hey, no hardship there. And these are on my favorite foods list anyway, right? How about a 3 o'clock snack? Pecans, or cottage cheese and celery, or homemade Lunchables. If you work in an office, you're on the road, and you just can't be sitting at your desk eating cottage cheese, then make yourself these Lunchables. You just take ham and cheese slices. Buy the actual real cheese slices. Don't buy the processed ones, because they're not good for you. They've got too many chemicals in them. But get the real cheese slices and roll them up and make your own roll-ups. Those are portable. 5:30, most of us are home by that point. We can have ourselves a quick snack as we're making supper. And you can have a peanut butter smoothie like I talked about with my chocolate protein. Oh my gosh, that peanut butter powder in there is wicked. Or a shrimp plate, or a psyllium fiber drink. I can't talk enough about fiber. I could do a whole other discussion here on fiber, but especially psyllium fiber, super important to have in your diet. We recommend that you have a fiber drink 30 minutes before your evening meal, because it helps absorb the oils and toxins and grease from your system and helps flush them out. If you wonder, if you're going through a weight loss program, you're wondering, well, where does the fat go? I mean, am I breathing it out, sweating it out, peeing it out, pooping it out? I mean, it's leaving my body. Where's it going? Well, the answer is all of the above. But you want to have high fiber in your diet, because you're going to help draw all of that out of your system. And if you're on a restrictive diet, and I hate to use the word diet because it has too many meanings, right? But if you're on a restrictive program, like the first 2 weeks of this program, you might be limiting some of that fiber intake in your foods. So you definitely want to find a really good source of fiber. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. So roast beef for dinner, squash with sour cream, asparagus, spinach salad. You know what? I've taken potatoes out of my diet completely, and I don't miss them. I mean, if you guys have never had squash with sour cream and cheese, it tastes just like sweet potatoes. It's so, so good. 9:30, ready for a snack. Broccoli and cauliflower, bell peppers and hummus. Herbal tea. I'm not one of those people that says you can't eat after a certain period of time. I'm sitting down with my husband watching TV at 9 o'clock at night. I'm having a snack. That's okay. So this is all about changing your habits. When you change your habits, you change your life. Everything we do is habit-based. The good things are habit-based, and the bad things are habit-based. It takes 21 days to change a habit. So that's why we recommend that you stick to a program like this for at least 6 weeks, so you can start getting into the new swing of things and getting your body re-educated as to what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like, what you crave, what you don't crave, and what you can substitute those cravings for. So the first 2 weeks is certainly the most aggressive. Then you're going to slowly add the limit list of foods in, and then periodically indulge in the avoid list. So if you want pizza and beer, you're going to have pizza and beer. This is no guilt, no fail. You're not falling off the wagon. You're not cheating on anything. This is just life. Now, we recommend that you find some good tools to keep you on track, because think about this as like a smoking analogy. If you're a smoker, and look at this lady, so she's in her 60s by this picture, I'm guessing. She's been smoking, let's say, all of her adult life. That is a habit she might want to break. Can she just go cold turkey and stop smoking? I don't think so. For most of us, like, we can't do that. We need some help. We need the Nicodem patch, or we need the Nicorette gum, or some people even get hypnotized to do it. So I'm not saying that you can't. Sure, we have evidence where people have stopped smoking cold turkey with no help, but it's just harder to do. And if you suffer already with cravings and willpower issues and busy life and excuses and can't go to the grocery store as often, or what all, or your spouse is not supportive, trust me, you need all the help you can get. One of the things that we recommend is that you adjust your environment. Remove your weaknesses, your unhealthy foods. Just take them away. Get them out of the house. Fat retains toxins. And I know that I talk to a lot of people that have autoimmune disorders like lupus and fibro, and some, it's higher percentage of women that suffer these conditions, and women have a higher percent body fat than men. Even for the same size to size, we have higher percent body fat. Fat retains toxins, and toxins make conditions like inflammatory issues like that way worse. They just make us feel crappy. So please do me a favor and get the toxins out of your home. Replace your chemical cleaners with non-toxic, safer cleaners. They exist. They're easy to find. Personal skincare products. Did you know that what you put on your skin is 60% absorbable to your bloodstream? That's crazy. That's within 26 seconds, it's going into your bloodstream. So if you wouldn't willingly eat something and there's some long chemical name, ask yourself, should I really be putting this on my skin if I'm not willing to consume it? So be sure that you're reading labels. So here's the tools that I personally recommend, and we've seen people have the most success with. You want to look for a fiber drink that has at least 10 grams of soluble fiber and 5 grams of insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber and insoluble fiber have two different functions in the body. Soluble fiber actually helps slow the digestive system, helps your body absorb more of the foods from nutrients and stuff from the foods that you're eating. Whereas the insoluble fiber is what helps things flush through and helps make you regular, helps get some of the crap out of your system, absorbs the oils and toxins and grease from your diet and helps move them along. So you want to make sure you have a product that has both. You want snack bars that are gluten-free and low carb. You want to find some protein bars that have at least 20 grams of protein and less than 10 grams of carbs. You want protein shakes that have at least 20 grams of protein and 2 grams of carbs or less. That can be hard to find. You got to find some protein shakes that really have low carb, okay? And low glycemic shakes for smoothies with less than 15 grams of carbs. There's one that I absolutely love that I'll have between my breakfast and my lunch and my supper, and it just keeps my blood sugar level like this. Is awesome for anybody that has metabolic issues or has blood sugar issues. You need a product like this in your life. And then a 0-calorie drink mix, because you need to be drinking lots of water. Here's my water right here. And having that water flavoring sure makes it easier. So I think that's my last slide. I did want to encourage you to get back with the person who invited you to take a look at this overview. We do have an awesome Facebook group that they can add you to, where we're going to continue to share some information about these science-based programs. I encourage you to watch that documentary, The Magic Pill, on Netflix. Grab that book that I mentioned earlier. And let us know if you want information on some of the tools that I personally use. Just get back with the person that invited you on here and we can share those with you. They're awesome. They work great for us. And again, you need something to help you along the way. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm just going to stop the recording here, but I will stay on to see if you have any questions.